as you may or may not know, part of my research with Edenia is cultivating algae and investigating its use for third-generation biofuels. Now, part of that process is concentrating and filtering off the algae so that it could be processed into other stuff. Now, I attempted this a while back and I actually made a video on it, and the end result was pretty suboptimal. Basically what happened is I used a cloth to drain off some algae and separate it from the water, and basically what happened is, you didn't see it, but basically what happened is most of the algae just ended up embedding itself and soaking it into the cloth. So with that in mind, with the help of 3D printing, I've come up with a solution. What I've printed here is something I designed in FreeCAD. And basically what this is it's a filter that can be used to filter off algae and separate it from the growth medium. But there was a problem with 3D printing a filter like this. And that is that 3D prints, even at 100% infill, are actually a little bit porous, and so they actually absorb moisture and some other things that go along with the moisture, such as algae. Now, to resolve that problem, what I've actually done is I've sanded this print down, and I've painted it with acrylic primer. And basically, that provides a barrier which should stop algae absorbing into the material. Now what I've done here is I've drilled some, I think it's 0.5, 0.6 millimeter holes, and basically that's to let the water through but keep the algae trapped inside this little crucible thing here. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be a perfect filter because the actual spirulina filaments, the actual individual strands of spirulina, are about 5 micrometers in length, and that is way too small for any of these holes to catch. And so that is way too small for even these holes to catch everything. So what I've done is I've prepared a little demo. I designed this to fit inside the top of a mason jar, and it sort of works. It doesn't quite go over the thread though, like I hoped to. But anyway, I have this filter on the mason jar, and I have a syringe filled with not so concentrated algae, because my algae is still quite mixed in suspension. However, this should serve as an adequate demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my syringe and I'm going to inject all of the algae into the filter, and hopefully the water below should be clearer than what I'm putting in. As you can see, it's filled to the top, and that will gradually filter through. Now that didn't actually quite work so well on its own. However, what I'm going to try now is I have some printer paper here. I'm just going to insert it into the filter, and now I'm going to see how well that works. Okay, I'm not sure that works too well either, but I have an idea. You see, when algae is dispersed like this in water, it is really fine and it's really mobile in the medium, and so it can get through very tight spaces really easily. My idea is that if I let my algae settle out and then try to filter it off when it's more concentrated, it has less water to move around in, and so it is more likely to settle in the filter. So what I have here is some spirulina that's a lot more concentrated. I'm going to see if my filter is any more effective at filtering that. So it's been a bit, and I've kind of gone back to the drawing board. So when I was designing this, I was designing it in such a way as that no algae would absorb into the material. Now, when I was designing this and making it and stuff, I made the filtering holes way too big, and this meant that the algae just fell through the filter instead of being collected. So I've been experimenting with a couple of things, and one of the designs that I've kind of gone for is sort of a more traditional funnel type design with tiny spaces at the bottom where the water can fall through. Now, these tiny holes are actually created by using a 3D printing technique using infill. So what I've been doing is experimenting with different infill densities and seeing what one is the most effective for filtering and collecting algae. And basically the infill pattern I've gone for is zigzag infill, and I've tried all different percentages. I've tried all the way from 80% infill, which was too much, to 40% infill, which was a little bit too little. However, I found that using around in between 52 and 55% infill, I was actually able to produce something which collected a superficial amount of algae. If I scrape it with my nail, it comes off. Probably won't be able to see it on the camera. Now there are two ways I could make this even more effective, and that is to increase the infill density a little bit more, but also increase the volume. Because if I increase the infill density, it means it will require more pressure for water to go through the filter. However, if I increase the volume and I fill the filter up with water to an increased volume, basically what will happen is the water will put pressure down onto the water below it, and you'll get more pressure going through the filter. Something I could have done but didn't really want to is use a different material that I have, which is basically a foam PLA. And basically what that is as you print at higher temperatures, the blowing agent in it activates and the filament starts to expand into a foam. Now that would be really useful in this application because a lot of water would be absorbed, but you'd have a solid barrier preventing the algae from falling through. However, I didn't want to do that because I wanted to create a solution that used materials that more people had access to. In this case, perhaps not your average person, but maybe your average hobbyist or maker might have a 3D printer, but the most common 3D printing filament people use is standard PLA. And so I wanted to try and create a solution that uses that. Something I may do soon is open a Thingiverse account and upload all of my 3D prints for people to access, use and improve upon. Because I believe that what's best from both a innovation standpoint and also societal standpoint is for things like technology, ideas, designs, etc. to be open source. In fact, that's part of why I share videos like these with you all. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed me sharing these designs today, and I hope you enjoy following me on my research of third generation biofuels. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.